Welcome to The Good Life. Thank you for stopping by. I am Patrick Harney, and thank you very much to all of you who have subscribed to the YouTube channel, who have subscribed to the podcast, who have listened. I really appreciate it. And if you haven't subscribed, please do so, because then what it does is it will let you know when a new episode comes out every week. So on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon Music, Buzzsprout, make sure to subscribe to the podcast if you like it. If you don't, well, then don't. But thank you very much to all of you. I really appreciate the support. So, getting into the show, I have an actress, director, writer, singer, multi-talented, just human being in general. Her name is Molly Gibson, and I'm very excited to sit down and talk with her and kind of pick her brain a little bit and get to know her a little better, get to know her story a little better. So let's get into it. Molly, welcome. Welcome to The Good Life. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it.
Of course.
So how are you? How's because I know you're out in LA right now. So how is everything out there right now?
It's great. We just got the green light to resume filming next month, so that's exciting. But oh my God, cat's already making noise. Bonnie, stop it. Yeah, I got out here about the end of August, so pretty much September, but a couple months ago. And I wasn't expecting to make progress as quickly as I did, because usually, you kind of come out here, expect to plant for a year or two, hopefully get an agent in that time. But I, not to like humble brag or anything, but I signed with a really, really great manager like about a month and a half after moving here. And I just shot a commercial last week. So it's been really exciting. Very validating.
Yeah, congratulations.
Like, oh, thank you. Everyone's like, oh, you moved in the middle of a pandemic. That's so crazy. And I'm like, well, it actually worked out really well. I don't know what you want me to say.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. And I had been wanting to move for like years. And like, I kept saying it, but I never was like making moves to like actually do it. And so over the last year, I started telling people that I would be gone by the winter. Like I would be in LA and they're like, yeah, okay. And I'm like, no, I will be gone in the winter. You will not see my face here. And I did it because I knew if I was still there, I'd be so embarrassed. The shame of it would just be too much. So that was how I got myself to actually make the move.
Wow. All right.
I started planning for about a year and then I just pulled the trigger and it was great. It was like not even a transition period. I was just like, all right, let's do it.
Well, hey, that's I'll tell you what, that's not a common thing. So I'd say you're very lucky, because I've had friends that have gone out there and they're back within a few months, or they go out there and they're like, oh, I'm going to be a star right away. And oh, no, that's not how that works.
Yeah, it's always painful to see that kind of thing happen, but yeah, it's just about the long haul, committing.
Yeah. So how did you get started in performing? Because I know you sing as well. So did you start in music or did you start in acting?
No, so it's actually a funny story. Well, I'm a middle child, so I've kind of always been performative by nature, just to like get the attention. But I was really shy, like in school and growing up. I was a shy kid, like in like public settings. And so I never would have found myself doing like theater and all that stuff if not for this like one little situation. So it's kind of funny how I got into it. Like I was about 12 or so, and my best friend at the time, she was always busy after school. I'd be like, hey, let's like hang out, let's go do something. And she's like, oh, I have rehearsal. And I'm like, rehearsal for what? She's like, I'm doing a play. I'm like, okay, well, I'll just do the play so we can hang out. And I was like, it was like the worst audition I've ever gave in my life because I didn't know what I was doing. It was absolutely terrifying. But I started doing it. I started doing theater and like, I was with friends and stuff, but it became like my own lane. They fell out of it, but I never stopped doing it from like age 12 to today. So I did start in theater, in school, and then a little bit of community theater and that sort of thing. And then, I moved into film 4 or 5 years ago in Detroit. And it was a great little transition over there, because I kind of always knew I wanted to do film, but it was one of those things I was buried very deep down that I was like, I can't speak this aloud to anyone. And it took like 4 years of community college and terrible toxic job situation to finally propel me into this headspace of I'm going to do this or I'm going to hate myself for the rest of my life.
Well, hey, you know,
That's when it all changed. Yeah.
exactly. There's the silver lining in that terrible job and, you know, the
Uh-huh.
college. And but
Yeah.
hey, props to you for making it all 4 years. I didn't even make it all 4 years. I only went 2.
Hey, that was a 2-year degree, mind you. I was working full time to pay for it. I
Okay.
didn't want to be at the job and I didn't want to be at the college. So it
Nope.
was not a good situation.
Yeah. Well,
But
good. So now that you are in film, what do you look for in a character? You know, in terms of, you know, whatever roles you want to play, what do you look for specifically in a character that intrigues you?
oh, it's a good question. I always like a little bit of a challenge. I don't want something that's too, easy to just jump into and like just give a half-ass performance, but I like things that I can find something that's relatable, but maybe not so cut and dry like Molly, but something that I could maybe like kind of extend my imagination and get myself to that place. So I always look for like a challenge in some form or shape. Um, and it's funny, I like playing characters that are like me, but also wildly unlike me. It's
Hmm.
it's there's a wide range of stuff you can do with acting, of course. And some of the stuff that I do best isn't really my favorite to do. So it's fine. It's fun to like find those wild, crazy roles you can jump into sometimes.
Yeah. So what is, you know, what would you say then? Because you said that's, you know, you like to find roles that aren't Molly. What is Molly compared to some of the
We're
roles that
getting
you've
really
played?
philosophical here.
We're getting real philosophical. Who is Molly Gibson?
So what is Molly meaning? Like what kind of roles are most natural to me?
Yeah, like so because you know, I mean, every actor there's naturally I feel like we want to try to gravitate toward a character that we think, "Oh yeah, I could play this well because this is similar to me."
Yeah.
So then, like you said, trying to play a role that's more challenging and that's more not you, you know,
Mhm.
it takes a little extra oomph to try and gravitate toward those characters. So the types of characters that you gravitate toward more naturally, what are those, would you say?
Yeah, so this took a long time for me to figure out because this changes from market to market, right? So like in Michigan, I was doing a lot of like leading lady stuff because it's a smaller market and you
Mhm.
know who you know and you start doing those kind of roles and you're like, oh, this fits well. I can do, the girl next door, I can do the love interest.
Mhm.
Um, but once I made this transition over here, it's a whole different ball game and you have to find where you fit in this massive market with all this competition. And I didn't find this all on my own. I definitely, I'm big on like coaching and consulting and all that stuff. So I've worked with a lot of people over many years. But what I do best here is like the obnoxious millennial, like the green juice drinking, like the influencer. And I just wrote and produced and shot another film with a writing partner of mine back in Michigan. And he just wanted to collab on like a project, but I was like, well, let's kill two birds with one stone and like write this character like for me, because
Yeah.
then I can like kill that role and then we can get you perfect footage, all this stuff. So that's coming out soon, actually. It's called Best Day Ever. It's a comedic thriller.
A
um,
comedic thriller. Okay.
yeah. So those are the roles that
Dig.
I've been like I tend to book and tend to like fit really well. Like it fits like a glove. I can do like the obnoxious, like, Scream Queens. Have you ever seen that? With
Mm-hmm.
Emma Roberts, like that kind of like, um, oh,
That, can you do that again? That was the what? The
oh
middle.
no, no. But yeah, so stuff like that. But we have a film coming up together that I don't know how much I can or can't say, so I won't say much. But it's roles like that are like really gritty and dark that I love doing because it's like it's different than what you see when you first look at me.
Yes.
It's not like
Yes.
the drug addict,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
kind of thing. So I love doing that. I love doing like dystopian sci-fi type stuff.
Yeah. That's a really, really good character. I'm very
I'm so
excited to see you
excited.
play that.
It's like
Um,
to the 90s period, like, so I want to like dye my hair. Like, I'm just kidding. But like,
no,
I
yeah.
can go all in, like, and like transform. I'm so excited.
100%.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see you old because
Yeah.
well, older, I should say, because that was one of the things that I remember that we were talking about was we were saying like, well, she'll be the perfect young Luna. I said, but how are we going to be able to sell that she could look older? And so we've been kind of talking with some makeup, makeup artists, and specifically one who kind of specializes in older makeup, and we think we have a good idea, but yeah, it's really going to be, Luna, she gets tore up. She gets like really messed with mentally in terms of the stuff that she goes through.
Yeah.
And you see what the result of that is when you see her when she's older. So you've worn many different hats, like you had said, in terms of writing, and you've worn many different hats in the process of filmmaking: actress, writer, director, producer. I know you've done even like script supervising. You've done a bunch of different stuff for a lot of different films. What would you say for you is the most satisfying?
Well, okay. Acting aside, acting is my number one,
Okay.
the main squeeze. But I love directing. And by the way, I don't consider myself an expert at any of these things. I like to get experience on all ends because I think it's important to understand the entire process and
Mm-hmm.
how all these things work together. But yeah, I started dipping my toe into directing and it's so fun. I can't even explain. Like, it's kind of like a long-term aspiration of mine is to be one of those like actor directors who, maybe like stars on a show, but directs some of the episodes, or maybe kind of like guest directs on some other shows, stuff like that. Maybe a feature one day. Ooh, I don't know, but yeah.
Well, hey, to just take it one step at a time. I mean, I know, because I think it was Figment, right? You directed that as well.
Yeah.
And you starred in that. That was really good, by the way.
Thank you. Actually, I did not star in it. I just filled in a little waitress role because I just,
Yes.
it'd be easier.
Okay.
But
Yes. But yes, you were in it though.
yeah, well, that was actually a funny story because that wasn't actually supposed to be a film. So that was with my friend Jillian Craighead. She's a great actress in Detroit. And she needed some stuff for her reel. And she was like, I really just need like a scene of like my love interest type, because that's her like best type that she plays is like the romantic lead. And I'm like, well, how about we just write a scene? Like, we know all these filmmakers, we can just shoot it for you. And she's like, yeah, okay. So we got together at a coffee shop and we started like brainstorming. I'm like, okay, so like, here's a gist and like, here's what's going to happen. I'm like, wait, this is more than a scene. This is a whole story. I'm like, wait, let's make a film. And she's like, oh my God. I'm like, no, it's going to be fine. Like, I kind of just like took the reins and I was like, we're going to do this. And it was like kind of an accident that the whole thing happened, but it was so fun and so amazing and such a big learning curve and everything. I just had this vision like in my head from like day one of exactly how I wanted it to look for her. And it took, a lot of finessing, and I'm very much like an actor's director, I think more so than technical, just because I know more about acting. So I knew like I was figuring out as I went how to like talk to the actors to get what I wanted from them, which is funny because you would think as an actor you would know how to get that, but it is a learning curve.
It is.
And then the biggest push was in editing, which my friend Jordan Ridnour did. I gave him a lot of notes and he did a really good job of taking every single one and doing exactly what I wanted. And because I was so perfectionist in post, I got like exactly what I pictured, like on screen, because of all the really great talent that I got to do it. It was amazing. I highly recommend. It's a lot of work though, if anyone is.
But that doesn't happen very often. That doesn't happen often when you see like you read the script, you envision it perfectly in your head, and then the final product is exactly what you envisioned. That does not happen.
Yeah, it's like impossible. I don't know how it happens.
That's crazy, but that's really good though. And even to speak toward, and I know I joked with you before. This is only the second time that we've ever actually like talked semi face to face.
Yeah.
I don't know if you could really call this face to face, but because I had an audition, I had a tape audition I had to do, and you're like a freaking superstar on We Audition.
Okay.
So I went on there and I see that you were online, and and you have like the Emmy or the MVP tag, attached to your face on there and everything. I said, all right, well, I need a female for this scene. Why don't I see if she's available? And every person that I've used on We Audition has always been pretty like, yeah, that's great. You're like, oh nope, no, yeah, we can do whatever you need, like whatever. And I did a take, and you're like, yeah, that's good. Do you mind if I Like, if I give you a no, and I'm like, no, yeah, sure, like that's great. Yeah, okay, all right. And we went for like an extra like 20 minutes, and you're like, no, okay, well, why don't you try it this way? And the audition was like exponentially better
Oh,
because of the notes
but
that you gave. So thank you for that. I guess we'll see if I get the role. If I don't, it's on you. But
yeah,
um, but yeah, no, and it was funny because I had told you, I said I could definitely tell that you're a director at heart,
oh, God, thank you.
based on that.
It's funny,
So yeah,
I'm always like very hesitant to like ever like give somebody advice or like notes if they don't want it. So I'm like, do you mind if I offer? And they're like, oh, please. And I'm like, okay, do this and this and this.
like, okay, so I wrote some things down. Um,
It's
yeah.
easier, to see a scene that you're not attached to in any way, like emotionally. If you don't have any like investment in the outcome, it's much easier to work on that with someone than on your own scene. Because sometimes I'll get an audition and I'm like, I don't know what to do with this. So
Yeah.
it's an outsider thing, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And what's funny is, like for me, I'm very much the same way. As I never want to like step on anybody's toes, but I'm also like I'm always rooting for the other person. You know what I mean? Like I'm always really hoping that they kill it. And so that's why, like, even when if I'm on set, I love it when everybody's really collaborative, and obviously, the director has the say, but to be able to have a director that says, or that makes you feel comfortable enough to be able to come up and say, hey, I have this idea, can we try this? Like, well, I don't know if that's going to work with this, but well, you know what, here, let's do this instead. Let's compromise. Or I'll say, yeah, go for it, we'll see if it works. If it doesn't work, then we won't use it. But I like that conversation. I like that collaboration. That's good.
I love that. And I most of the time I feel like it is like a show up and do your job kind of thing. And I never want to like impose like, insert myself where I'm not, where I don't belong. But when you do come across a set like that where it's very collaborative and like they, like you to improv, it's like, oh my God, chef's kiss. It's so great.
I know. And that's what I will say. That's what the Locker 42 set will be like. It will be like that. Because that's how I work best. That's how, some of the other people that are involved work best. And so yeah, I'm excited with that. And one thing that I always like to try and do is I always like to try and have a conversation with the director, just like personally first, just to get a feel for how they are as a person. Before I get onto set, or if before we start the scenes, and so I can be like, all right, how much am I gonna be able to play with this, because
Yeah, that's an important.
I've been on that set where it is, you
Yeah,
know
like down to the punctuation. Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's fun, it's okay, it's fun, but it's, it starts to feel like work, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's just like about like knowing your place, I think. And like that's why directing is so fun because like I got that taste for blood. I'm like, I call the shots here. But
Yeah,
when I'm acting, I'm like, I will do what you want me to do. Cause like you don't want to like when people start stepping on toes and it's not warranted, that's when like the head's butt and like the whole thing falls apart. So
yes,
the collaboration is great, but I like when people all know how to work collaboratively, but also stay in their lane and know how to,
exactly,
just do their job and do it to the best of their ability.
exactly. So kind of going back to the music stuff. I know you're always you're always posting, on Instagram and Facebook, like covers that you do and stuff like that. So how does music play a role in your life? Is it more of just like a hobby thing, or do you want to do music at some point, do you think? Because you're really talented.
Oh, thank you. Um, so acting is like my main thing. I always say I do love singing. It's like a very cathartic thing. I'm always singing in the car, always in the shower. If anyone is in the car with me, it's like a carpool karaoke, Molly, unfortunately for them. But yeah, I kind of got more into like, piano this year. I've always dabbled a little bit here and there and like tried to like learn things, but I never really had lessons. It's playing hold for noise. And I started like really getting serious about it this year. Well, not serious, but like more invested, more interested, and
Mhm.
like sitting down and like learning things. And that's why I've been posting some covers. I'm still pretty perfectionist. I'm like, I don't want to post it. But I wouldn't ever like rule anything out. Acting is like my main goal and everything. I'm not super interested in, like signing to a record label and making an album. But, you know, if someone was like, hey, would you sing in this film? Like, absolutely. Or like, hey, would you like, you know, do the soundtrack for this? I'm like, okay. But it's more like in conjunction with the path that I'm already on. The only thing that I did do that was like a little bit of a detour was a few years ago, I saw a casting breakdown for a Taylor Swift tribute artist. If anybody knows me, pretty much anybody in the world who knows me knows that I am Taylor Swift's #1 fan. Love her to death. Know all the songs. And it was like, do you look and sound like Taylor Swift? And I'm like, people tell me that I do. And so it was like, hey, we need a tribute artist for like these dates in Boston for this show. I'm like, ooh. So I'm like, why not? I'll just like do it, like just for the fun of it.
Yeah.
And I somehow got it. I still to this day, it's kind of like blew my mind. But so I did that for a little bit in Boston. It was at this theme park. And they're known for their tribute shows. So like when I went, they had a Lady Gaga and a Bruno Mars that was running all summer. And then they brought a Taylor Swift in for their like fall country shows. So I did that. I was like, you know, fully decked out. I still have the costume. You know, like impersonating and singing. And that was a big first for me. Like I had never really done a professional singing gig before. So that was, you know, a lot of learning curves and stuff like that. And it was something that I could have gone a lot further with, but after doing it and, you know, having the experience, which was great, but it was also like a big learning experience. Like I definitely want to do film. Like it was great, but it didn't quite fit me the way that the film does, the way that acting does. So I think it's good to branch out and do stuff like that. That's how you learn about yourself. That's how you learn what you really want in life. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. So you're basically Taylor Swift. So I basically know Taylor Swift. So like whoever the imposter is out there that's making all this money,
you know, right?
I mean, there's grounds for a lawsuit. But so so you moved to LA, and I know that because there's been people that have come from here that have moved to Atlanta as well, that both of us know.
Yeah.
What made you decide LA over Atlanta or New York? So.
I feel like it's always been LA for me. So like growing up in Michigan and spending my entire life there, like the winters were just more than enough for me to say goodbye forever. Obviously Atlanta is warm, but it has that, you know, southern heat, sunny Southern California, man. You can't really beat it. Although nobody warned me that it actually does get really cold here sometimes.
I don't believe it. No
okay,
way.
Well, maybe I adapted quickly, but it was mainly the, you know, the LA market and of course the great weather. But yeah, it's the film and the TV, you know, all the TV shows, not all of them, but lots of them shoot here. Yeah. There's a wider range of things you can go for, I think, within the TV and film world. I don't know. And I totally get the Atlanta thing. And a lot of people do it. It's a good option. But for me, I just like never felt like drawn there.
Okay.
Always felt like it was LA for me.
Yeah. I remember because I've taken a few trips out to LA. And one of them, it was during, it was a few years ago. It was during their like heavy drought period where like it had only rained like once in the previous like 6 months, like or 7 months. It was crazy. And I remember I was there and, you know, I was watching people take like, you know, this, like the snow scrapers, like the brush side of it. They were brushing the dust off of their car with that, you know, and this was in like September. And I remember it started raining and I have never seen I've never experienced such a strange 5 minutes in my life. It only rained for about 5 minutes. And the raindrops were so like spread out that I swear you could like bob and weave and not get wet. And and people started coming outside and they were like acting like a meteor shower was coming. Like people were freaking out. And this one guy hopped on his bike and he started like riding down the street, and he was like, "It's raining, mother," and like just going crazy. And I was like, "This is like what?" And then it stopped raining, and the ground was like already dry, pretty much, and everybody just went like back to normal. And I was like, "What just happened?" It was so strange. Um, so
That's,
yeah, I don't know. Like I feel like cold there would be like nice, like a nice t-shirt and shorts
it
weather.
is. It is. It's like, yeah, it's like 50s, 60s, where in Michigan you'd be like, oh, it's springtime.
Yeah.
But yeah, you get used to it.
It's like 20 degrees here right now with a bunch of snow.
So yeah, I don't miss it. I wanted to get away from that.
um so tell me, how does because moving to LA, I mean, so did you move out there with anybody, or did you just go yourself and you know and fly solo?
I like in terms of roommates, I did not go with anybody. I found them first and then I moved in with them.
Okay.
So I kind of just like hopped in the car and went.
Hmm.
Yeah, there were a few people, well, there was like a person or two in Michigan that I was like really like gunning for like them moving at the same time as me. Was really trying to peer pressure them.
Mm.
But it works out really well actually. Like I found a really great place here in Burbank. And yeah, got roommates. It's a great situation. It was very stressful trying to like figure it all out, but kind of just roll with the punches and it happens as it should.
Yeah. So with that, how do you keep such a um how do you keep a positive mindset and attitude when, through all of that? Because I mean, I'm sure there's times where you're like, oh man, like, like maybe you feel like you're just kind of on your own or whatever, maybe like toward the beginning. So how have you kept positivity as or rooted in
Um,
yourself?
that's a good question. I guess it's just like think of what the alternative is and don't do that. Like the alternative would be giving up or, having a pity party or, just throwing in the towel because it's too hard. I don't know. I've never like leaned in that direction. I mean, it's tempting, but you
Yeah.
got to go after it 100%.
Well, that's good. That's good. What's been the coolest the coolest experience that you've had out there in the few months that you've been there, would you say? I know things are a little different with COVID, so
A little different. For the most part, since I've been here, everything has been like totally shut down, like even outdoor dining. There was like a little bit of time when I first moved here where there was stuff you could do. But one funny thing that happened, like as soon as I moved out here, I was having dinner with a friend out on the street, and this friend of mine just like walks up, and I'm like, "Oh my God, what are you doing here?" He's like, "I live here." I'm like, "No, I live here." He's like, "No, I live like right there." I'm like, "No, I live right there." And so this was a friend that I had done a film with in Michigan about a year before, and I found out that like all of them lived within like just a few minutes of me, like all by like happenstance, and I was like, "That's
that's
pretty cool."
yeah, that is pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's like I will also say like I've met a lot of Detroiters here. Like I know everybody flocks to LA, but on that commercial that I just shot, there were like 3 Detroiters on set. And
Hmm.
I'm like, this is crazy. Not anyone that I knew, surprisingly, but yeah, I think it's just like the how small of a town LA is, even though it's like huge, it's still like a small town.
Hmm. Interesting.
It's crazy. Like you really wouldn't expect it.
Yeah. Well, and I know there's because I mean when I went to Michigan State, there's like even on Facebook, there's like a Spartans of Hollywood like Facebook group where a bunch of Spartan alum are out in LA, and they all like work with each other and like connect with each other and stuff. And yeah,
Yeah.
I think I think it is a lot of and with I mean with LA, it's one of those things where like I feel like it's one of those things where it can be so oversaturated. Like there's so many people that go there because they want to be a star. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And that was one thing that I learned when I had gone there a couple times, where you know you have to have the right intentions if you go out there. The people who go out there and come back after a few months are the ones who are like, I just want to be famous. Well, for
Oh yeah.
what? Oh,
It'll
like fame.
it'll weed you out pretty quick if that's your goal.
Yeah, yeah. Um, all right. Well, hey, I do have a segment called The Goods that these are just questions that I like to pick your brain and see, how your answer is differ from previous guests that I've had on. So, what is your favorite movie and why?
My favorite movie is Back to the Future. I've always loved it. It's really hard to say why. Like it was one of those movies that like I could always return to. Like it just never gets old for me. It always has that like great value. Like every time I watch it, I'm like, oh, I just love this movie. I mean, of course, Michael J. Fox and all of them, they're so great. And I love like period stuff. I mean, I know it wasn't at the time, but I love going back to older periods.
Yeah. What
Um,
what did you think about the second one and the third one?
um, they were I still liked them, but the first one is like the one that I love.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So what is there a show that you're currently like deep into right now?
Oh, I watch so many shows. Um, I watched Ozark like way too many times.
That's a great show.
Yeah, I've kind of just started that one again. um, Man, I'm watching so many things right now. Let's see. Have you ever seen Unreal?
Mm-mm.
It's I believe it's on Hulu. It's a really good show. It's about um this reality dating show. And it's not a reality show, but it's about a reality show. So it's a show within a show.
Okay.
And it's about these producers and how they produce these dramatic events and how they produce the show essentially. And it gets like real dark and it's really good. The acting is some of the best I've ever seen. So I'm kind of always rewatching that. It's
Yeah.
like a masterclass. I highly recommend that one. But yeah, I started watching The Undoing. I'm going through some like older classics right now, like 6 Feet Under, um, True Blood, Sex in the City. I kind of wanted to like get a good grasp on like all these older shows. So I have a long ways to go, but those are a few that I'm watching. I'm watching Westworld.
That's a really good show. I need to catch up on Westworld though. I haven't caught up.
Yeah, I'm like way behind on that one.
Yeah, same. I'm way behind. I actually just watched it's not a show, but it's a movie. I just watched it. It's on HBO Max, The Little Things. It just came out. It's got Denzel Washington, Rami
Oh,
Malek, and Jared Leto.
okay.
Oh my goodness gracious. That movie is so good. Like so good.
The Little Things. I'll have to watch it.
Yeah, it's really good. It's I mean when you have 3 Academy Award winners in the same cast, like
Oh yeah.
that doesn't happen often, you know what I mean? But yeah, I get into like right now in terms of shows, I'm kind of on a comedy kick.
Mm.
I go through waves where like I'll start watching a lot of like dramas and stuff like that, and then I'll just watch a bunch of comedies. I just watched I finished The Office before it left Netflix, and then like Community. Like I watched Community for the first time as a funny show. Last season is absolute garbage though. But there's a show also on HBO Max called Raised by Wolves. I don't know if you've seen that.
No.
That's a really good movie. It's got Travis Fimmel. I'm not sure if you know who that is, but he was in the show Vikings. He played Ragnar Lothbrok. He was in that World of Warcraft movie. But he's a really good actor. And that show is like, it takes place on kind of I think it's futuristic and it's after like Earth is no longer a place anymore. And there are these like androids that were made to be like caregivers for children.
Ooh.
And but there are still humans, and uh, yeah, you see like humans and androids like going against each other, and
Oh, I love this. What is it called?
it's called Raised by Wolves. Ridley Scott made it and
Oh,
directed.
okay.
Yeah, super good. So I would watch that for sure.
Have you seen The Boys on Prime?
Yes.
Oh,
That
That's
show is so good.
I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna like this, but I was like, oh, this is a great show.
Yeah, and super like graphic
Yeah,
action wise. Like
yes,
so bloody and
buyer
gory.
beware. Yeah.
But it's almost kind of funny. Like those moments are like funny gory, which
Yeah,
I
they
don't
take a different tone with it than you usually see.
yeah, for sure. And it's, kind of like in a world of superheroes, what if the superheroes were actually like super corrupt and
Yeah,
by greed and power and fame, you
yeah.
know?
I think it's based on a comic.
It
I'm not
is.
up on my comic books, but yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I've been enjoying it now.
And I will say, speaking of comic, WandaVision,
Oh, everyone's telling me to watch that. I haven't seen it yet.
it's so good. And it
So
and it and
what?
if you like period stuff,
Yeah.
um like the first few episodes are basically like a 1950s sitcom.
Oh,
And
what?
and then it switches to like the 70s.
Oh, okay.
And then it like goes to like, like the 60s and the 70s and like it's going through all these different time periods. And it's really cool. It's a cool spin on it. And I've heard mixed reviews of it. People are saying, "Oh, this is slow or this is dumb or whatever, blah blah." And I'm like, "No, this is great television. Like if you really people just don't know how to watch TV anymore,
Yeah.
you know?
Mm.
Everybody wants everything right now, right now, right now. It's like,
Mm.
no, go ahead and wait a week. That's what used to happen, you know?
Remember the days?
Back in the day when you had to wait a week for the new episode.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And the commercials for the show, there's like commercials, but they're
Mhm.
built into the episode and they're like Easter eggs for
Mhm.
other Marvel stuff. So like one of them was like a soap made by Hydra, like, and like Stark Industries, with their new toaster, Toast-O-Matic or whatever. Um and it's super cheesy, but it's really good.
That sounds really interesting.
Yeah. So if okay, do you have a drink of choice? And if so, what is it?
Of course, gin and tonic.
Oh, G&Ts. Are you a single or a double?
Depends on the night.
Okay. Okay. I got a buddy that was always his go-to. If he's not drinking beer, it was always a gin and tonic.
It's refreshing.
See, I don't know. I like. Do you like the extra dry gin?
Usually yeah, I drink dry. I don't know. People either love or hate gin. So I'm like, don't drink it if you don't want it, if you don't like it. But I love it. It's great.
Yeah. See, to me, like I don't want to be thirsty after I drink gin and
Yeah,
tonic.
but that's what I get when I'm like with a super like sugary sweet drink. I'm like, ugh, I feel like I need like a gallon of water after this.
Yeah, that is true. I like a good like whiskey and ginger ale.
Mm,
That's
yeah.
always a good one. But okay, if you could work with anyone in the world, dead or alive,
Wha-
who would it be?
Any,
I know. I'm really throwing the big ones at you.
well,
Um,
okay, hold on.
first let's start with a fellow actor. If you could work
Oh,
with
ooh,
any other performer, dead or alive, who would it be?
oh my gosh. I need like 3 days to think about this. Any performers that are live.
I don't know if my computer will last that long to record it.
I mean, ugh, off the top of my head, like I'm gonna give a really generic answer, and I'm sorry, but like probably. Oh no, this is so hard. Wait, can you give me your answer and then I'll think about it?
Okay. Um, alive, Matthew McConaughey.
Oh, that's a good one.
I love his style and how he gets into characters and he just seems like the type of guy that you would love to just like have a beer with and just hang out with.
Oh yeah.
But dead, I would say Jerry Lewis for
Oh,
sure.
that's a good one. Um, okay. I'm taking way too long to answer this.
That's okay.
Give me a second question and I'll come back. That's too much pressure. It's hurting.
Okay. Um, is there a certain type of role, a certain type of character that you have not played yet that you would love to play?
Ooh.
It could be like a role or like a character in a certain genre, you know.
I think probably like a villain of some sort. like a really dark, because you gotta like really like stretch your mind to like, how can I make this work and how can I make this justified and like relatable in some way?
Yeah.
Like, how do I get in their head? Yeah, I think a villain.
What's cool about villains and what's always been interesting to me is like you don't really have to follow a moral compass,
Right.
you know,
Well,
for that
well, the
character.
thing is, like, to them, it might not necessarily be wrong. Like, they might think they're justified in doing what they're doing, which is like
Exactly.
what we're trying to tap into.
Exactly.
They
Yeah.
have their own moral compass.
Yeah. I think those darker types of characters are always interesting because there's more you can do, I feel like, with it,
Yeah.
you know, and that's why I think, and even sometimes in good characters, you know, you find that, like, I guess to kind of connect with the superhero stuff. I think that's why, like, the difference between like Tony Stark and Captain America, like Captain America is like the poster boy for good. Like no matter what, he has to make the good decision, you know, which can be fun to play, but also I feel like it gets stale. But Tony Stark, he's a little bit more like, no, I go on my own, you know, my own path, and I do what I want to do for, you know, for myself. And I'm not saying he's a villain, but you know, he has some of those same qualities that a villain or a bad, you know, dark character may have.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like that though. I think in a villain, okay, a villain in like what type of genre though? Like fantastical or more like thriller type or like.
No, I'm not big on like anything gory for like no reason, but I think maybe it would probably be like a sci-fi dystopian type genre.
Okay.
I just love it. Yes.
Yeah, that'd be cool. That'd be cool. Have your own like ship.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the captain of your own ship. That's yeah, that'd be sweet.
Cool.
Okay.
He's going now.
So let's circle back, shall we?
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, I've always loved Tom Hanks since like day one.
Mm,
I mean, I know there's so many answers you could go with, but just off the top of my head, I would have to say Tom Hanks. Like,
that's a
just so
great
many
answer.
great, yeah, I would just love it. And
Yeah.
he just seems like such a great guy too.
Yeah, for sure. Is there anybody that is no longer with us that you would like to have worked with that you
Um,
now don't have the chance to?
Maybe like Marlon Brando.
Mm.
You can't give me these hard questions.
No, that's a heavy hitter though.
You can't ask a perfectionist to give you one answer.
I'm a perfectionist too.
Yeah.
I have so many people that but what I always think about though is like um whoever the first name that pops into your head is,
Yeah.
that's probably who, you
That's
know, is at the top of
true.
your list.
Yeah.
Okay. And then my final question that I have is, what are some methods that you've adopted to keep yourself centered and grounded?
Ooh, I'm always working on that one. Mindfulness meditation is a good one. That one is like most beneficial, I think, if you can get in a regular habit of it. I was doing it for a little while and I fell out of it, but stuff like the Headspace app, you know, you can do a quick little 10-15 minute guy, like right before an audition, I'll do that. Now we don't have like in-person auditions anymore, but when we did, I would go sit in my car. I would do that for like 10-15 minutes, like really just like brings it all to center and like calms all the nonsense going on in your head. Um, I guess it really depends on the day. Like I have like some certain teas that I like are calming sometimes. But yeah, I would say probably mindfulness meditation is a big one. You know, there's breathing techniques that can kind of like just physically calm your body down. And I think it just comes down to like focus. Like if you can just focus on one thing exclusively, which is really hard to do, especially for me. But if you can just focus on the one task at hand, that can kind of help, you know, ground you, put it all on one thing.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's awesome. Well, hey, thank you for being here. Thanks for doing the show. I look forward to stepping on set with you and you know, getting in the ring with you and all of our fellow members that will be on set as well. So please what are some things you got coming up that people should be looking out for?
I have my film with my friend Austin. It's called Best Day Ever, that will be out I don't know when, probably in the next few months. I'm really excited for that. I have some stuff coming out that I probably can't talk about, but I'll post about it on Instagram when I can. Yeah, just stay tuned for stuff, I guess.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you very much for being here. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right. And that wraps this episode of The Good Life. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you to Molly for being here as well. And like I said at the beginning of the video, make sure to like and subscribe, share, comment, get into it. And make sure to set notifications so that way you know when the next episode comes out, when it comes out. So, have a good week.